Commissioner Al of the Galactic Innovation Commission sat alone in her office, staring at the same report she had read 17 times. The numbers refused to change. The data refused to make sense, and her compound eyes were beginning to ache from the strain of looking for errors that did not exist. Outside her window, the twin suns of Prime were setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Normally, she enjoyed watching the sunset. It reminded her of why she had taken this job in the first place. Understanding how civilizations grew and changed was, to her, the most beautiful work in the galaxy. But today, the sunset meant nothing. Today, all she could think about was the impossible species from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. Humans, that was what they called themselves. Humans from a world they called Earth. She tapped her long, segmented fingers against the crystalline surface of her desk, a nervous habit she had never been able to break. The Galactic Innovation Commission had been tracking the technological advancement of newly contacted species for over 12,000 standard cycles. They had developed precise models. They understood exactly how civilizations grew. Every known spacefaring race followed the same basic patterns, with only minor variations. First came fire, then came agriculture, then came writing, cities, industry, and eventually space travel. The timeline varied somewhat depending on the species, but the overall curve was always the same, slow at first, then gradually faster, but never too fast. There were limits to how quickly any civilization could advance. Knowledge was power, and power was always hoarded. Great houses kept their secrets. Corporations guarded their patents. Religious orders passed down wisdom only to chosen successors. This was simply how intelligent life worked. The humans broke every rule. Al pulled up the timeline again, hoping the data had somehow corrected itself. It had not. According to every reliable source the Commission could find, humans had split the atom less than 100 of their years ago. That was practically yesterday. That was nothing. And yet, here they were, already testing fusion drives and reaching toward the stars. For comparison, her own people, had required 6,000 years to make the same journey from atomic power to interstellar travel. The had needed 8,000. The ancient collective, widely regarded as one of the most innovative species in galactic history, had done it in just under 4,000 years. The humans were on track to accomplish the same feat in less than 300. It was impossible. It violated everything the Commission understood about development. The door to her office slid open with a soft hiss and rippled into the room. Was a species that resembled nothing so much as a human-sized blob of intelligent gelatin. His body shifted colors as he moved, amber and blue and green swirling beneath his translucent surface. He was the Commission's senior analyst, and he had been working on the human problem for nearly 2 full cycles. "You've read the updated report," he said. It was not a question. His membrane pulsed with weary resignation. "I've read it 17 times," Al replied. "I keep hoping it will change." "It will not change." Settled into the specialized chair designed for his species, his gelatinous mass conforming to its contours. "We have the timeline through 7 independent archaeological analyses. We have cross-referenced their historical records with physical evidence. We have examined the isotopic decay of their nuclear test sites. The data is accurate, Commissioner. The humans really did advance this quickly." Al's mandibles clicked together in frustration. "Then explain it to me. How is this possible? Do they have access to precursor technology? Did some ancient race uplift them? Are their historical records fabricated?" "We have found no evidence of any of those things," said. "Their advancement appears to be entirely organic, self-generated. They simply developed quickly. No species develops this quickly. And yet apparently one does." They sat in silence for a long moment, watching the twin suns sink below the horizon. The sky turned from purple to deep blue, and the first stars began to appear. Somewhere out there, invisible to the naked eye, was the small yellow star that the humans called Sol. Al found herself staring in that direction, as if she could somehow see the answer to the mystery if she just looked hard enough. "There must be something we're missing," she said finally. "Some factor we haven't considered, some variable that explains the anomaly." "I agree," replied. "But I have spent 2 cycles looking for that variable and I cannot find it. I have analyzed their biology, their psychology, their social structures, their economic systems. Nothing stands out. They are not significantly more intelligent than other species at their development level. They are not longer lived. Their brains are not dramatically larger or more complex. By every measurable standard, they should be advancing at a normal rate. But they are not." Al turned away from the window and looked at her analyst directly. "What about their information systems? How do they handle knowledge transfer?" His membrane flickered with something that might have been surprise. "That is actually one of the strangest things about them. They have very poor information security. Knowledge flows freely between their various nation-states, sometimes even between competing organizations. We initially assumed this was a weakness in their civilization, a sign of instability that would eventually lead to their collapse. But it hasn't led to their collapse. No, if anything, it seems to be accelerating their development." Paused, his colors shifting to a thoughtful shade of purple. "I must admit, I have found this aspect of their civilization quite difficult to understand. They seem to actively resist hoarding knowledge. They create institutions specifically designed to spread information as widely as possible. It is a very unusual behavior." Al felt something stir in the back of her mind. A possibility, a hypothesis. It was vague and formless, like a shape half seen in fog, but it was there. "I want a contact team assembled," she said. "I want our best researchers, our best analysts, our best cultural specialists. We're going to Earth." His membrane rippled with alarm. "Commissioner, that is a significant escalation. Direct contact missions are expensive and time-consuming. We would need approval from the Grand Assembly." "Then get approval from the Grand Assembly. Tell them whatever you need to tell them. Tell them we've found an anomaly that could reshape our understanding of development. Tell them we've found something unprecedented." "And if they ask for specifics?" Al looked out the window again at the stars scattered across the darkening sky. "Tell them the truth. Tell them we've found a species that shouldn't exist, a civilization that is advancing faster than any in recorded history, and we don't know why." Was quiet for a long moment. Then his membrane pulsed with acceptance. "I will submit the request tonight. It may take several rotations to process." "Take whatever time you need. This is too important to rush." After left, Al remained at her window for a long time, thinking. Her mind kept returning to what it said about information flow. Every other spacefaring civilization the Commission had studied hoarded knowledge. They had their knowledge castes, hereditary lineages that guarded scientific secrets for generations. They had their corporate knowledge vaults, where patents and discoveries were locked away for centuries. The collective had their priesthoods, where sacred technical wisdom was passed down through elaborate rituals. All of these systems had one thing in common. They treated knowledge as a finite resource, something to be protected and controlled. It was the natural order of things. Knowledge was power. Power was survival. Therefore, knowledge must be guarded. But what if the humans didn't think that way? What if they treated knowledge differently? Al didn't know the answer. She couldn't even fully formulate the question. But she knew, with a certainty that went beyond logic, that the key to the human anomaly lay somewhere in that direction. Something about the way they handled information was different. Something about the way they shared knowledge was wrong by galactic standards, but somehow produced superior results. She needed to see it for herself. She needed to understand. The request for the contact mission was approved 3 rotations later. 2 months after that, Commissioner Al and her team boarded a diplomatic vessel bound for the Sol system. They had no idea that what they were about to learn would change the entire galaxy. The human facility called CERN spread across a valley between 2 of Earth's many nation-states. From the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel, Al could see the massive ring of the particle accelerator stretching across the landscape, a circle of technology nearly 30 kilometers in diameter. It was impressive by any standard, but what truly caught her attention was what she saw around it. There were no walls, no security perimeters, no fortified checkpoints controlling who could enter or leave. "Is there an error in our sensors?" she asked her technical specialist, a young named Al whose specialty was analyzing foreign defense systems. Al checked her instruments 3 times before answering. "No, Commissioner. The readings are accurate. There is minimal security infrastructure, a few identification checkpoints, some basic surveillance systems, but nothing comparable to what we would expect around a major research facility." "That can't be right." Al leaned closer to the display, trying to spot something they had missed. "This is one of their primary scientific installations. They study fundamental physics here. They explore the basic structure of reality. That knowledge must be incredibly valuable. Where are the defensive installations? Where are the knowledge guards?" "There aren't any." Al's voice carried a note of disbelief that matched Al's own confusion. "I've scanned the entire facility 3 times. The only armed personnel I can detect are a small number of local security officers who appear to be primarily concerned with preventing theft of physical equipment. There is nothing protecting the knowledge itself." Rippled beside them, his membrane pulsing with agitated patterns of yellow and orange. "This confirms what we found in our preliminary research. The humans do not appear to guard their scientific knowledge the way other species do. In fact, they seem to do the opposite. They actively work to spread it." "That makes no sense," Al said. "Knowledge is the most valuable resource any civilization possesses. It determines who rises and who falls. No rational species would simply give it away." "And yet," replied, "the humans appear to do exactly that." Their transport descended through Earth's atmosphere and landed on a designated pad near the main CERN complex. A small delegation was waiting for them, led by a human female with dark hair and intelligent eyes. She wore simple clothing with no obvious markers of rank or caste, which made it difficult for Al to assess her position in the human hierarchy. "Commissioner Al," the human said, extending one of her upper limbs in what the cultural briefing had identified as a greeting gesture. "I'm Dr. Sarah. I'll be your liaison during your visit to CERN." Al carefully mimicked the gesture, pressing her own hand against the human's. The contact was brief and warm. "Thank you for receiving us, Doctor. We have many questions about your facility." "I'm sure you do," Doctor smiled, which the briefing had said was a positive expression. "We don't get many alien delegations. To be honest, we're all pretty excited about this. The whole physics department wanted to come meet you, but I convinced them to let us do the official tour first." She led them through a series of corridors, explaining the facility's layout and function as they walked. Al listened carefully, but most of her attention was focused on what she was seeing. Scientists from dozens of different nations walked past them, chatting casually, carrying tablets and data pads, discussing their work in voices that anyone could hear. There was no compartmentalization, no separation between different research teams, no visible hierarchy controlling who could access what information. "I noticed that your scientists seem to mix freely," Al said carefully. "Is there no separation between different knowledge disciplines?" Doctor looked puzzled by the question. "We have different departments if that's what you mean. Particle physics, theoretical physics, engineering, computing, and so on. But everyone collaborates. That's kind of the whole point." "The whole point of CERN," Doctor said. "The whole reason this place exists is to bring scientists together from different countries and different backgrounds so they can work on problems that are too big for any one nation to solve alone. We have over 12,000 scientists from more than 70 countries working here. They share everything: data, ideas, equipment, techniques. The only way to make progress on fundamental physics is to pool our resources." Al felt her mandibles click together as she processed this information. But surely there must be some restrictions, some knowledge that is kept secret. Your various nation-states must have competing interests. Oh, sure, there's politics, Doctor admitted. There's always politics. Funding disputes, priority arguments, the occasional nationalist trying to claim credit for multinational discoveries. But the actual science, the data, the findings, that's all public. That's the foundation of how science works. How it works? Asked. His membrane had shifted to a deep, curious blue. Doctor stopped walking and turned to face them directly. I think I need to explain something about how human science operates. When we discover something new, our first instinct isn't to hide it. Our first instinct is to tell everyone. We write papers. We publish results. We share data. We want other scientists to check our work, challenge our conclusions, build on our findings. That's the whole process. She pulled out a small rectangular device and tapped its surface a few times. This is a website called. It's been around since 1991. Anyone on Earth can upload their research here, and anyone can read it, completely free. There are millions of papers, covering everything from quantum physics to pure mathematics to computational biology, all freely available to anyone who wants to learn. Al stared at the device in Doctor's hand. Anyone can access this, any human on your planet. Anyone with an internet connection. And these days, that's most of humanity. But why? The question came out before Al could stop it. It was unprofessional, showing her confusion so openly, but she couldn't help herself. Why would you give away your most valuable discoveries? What do you gain from letting others have your knowledge? Doctor was quiet for a moment, considering the question seriously. I think you might be looking at this backwards, she said finally. Knowledge isn't valuable because it's rare. Knowledge is valuable because of what you can do with it. And the more people who have access to knowledge, the more people who can do things with it. She led them to a large window overlooking the main accelerator ring. When we first developed the theoretical framework for the boson, back in the 1960s, we didn't keep it secret. We published it. We told everyone. And then something amazing happened. Thousands of physicists around the world started working on the problem. Theorists in Europe refined the mathematical models. Experimentalists in America developed detection methods. Engineers in Japan built better sensors. Everyone contributed something, and everyone built on what others had done. It took us almost 50 years to finally detect the boson, she continued. But we did it, and we only did it because we shared. No single team, no single country could have solved that problem alone. It required the combined effort of the entire global scientific community, and the only way to get that combined effort was to make the knowledge free. Al felt something shift inside her, a fundamental reorientation of her understanding. All her life, she had believed that knowledge was power because it was scarce. The species that hoarded the most knowledge held the most power. That was simply how the universe worked. But the humans had discovered something different. They had learned that knowledge was power because it was generative. The more minds that had access to knowledge, the more new knowledge could be created. Hoarding didn't make you stronger. Sharing did. It was such a simple idea, and yet no other species in the galaxy had ever thought of it. Standing on the shoulders of giants, Doctor said softly. That's what we call it. Every scientist who comes after builds on the work of everyone who came before, and the only way that works is if the giants let you climb. She turned away from the window and smiled at them again. Come on, let me show you our library. I think you'll find it interesting. She was right. Al found it very interesting indeed. 3 standard lunar cycles after returning from Earth, Commissioner Al stood before the Grand Assembly of the Galactic Federation. The chamber was vast, a great dome capable of holding representatives from over 200 member species. Today, it was nearly full. Word of her preliminary findings had spread, and everyone wanted to hear what she had discovered about the strange, fast-advancing species from Sol 3. Al waited for silence, then began. Distinguished representatives, I come before you today to present the findings of my investigation into the human advancement anomaly. I must warn you that what I am about to say will challenge many of our fundamental assumptions about how civilizations develop. Some of you may find it difficult to accept. I ask only that you consider the evidence with open minds. She activated the central display, and an image of Earth appeared above the assembly, a small blue sphere hanging in the darkness of space. This is the human. It is unremarkable in most respects. Average size, average composition, average position in its stellar system. The humans themselves are similarly unremarkable. They are neither particularly intelligent nor particularly long-lived. Their brains are complex but not exceptional. By every standard biological measure, they should be advancing at a rate comparable to other species at their developmental stage. She changed the display to show a graph. A single line climbed steeply upward, far above all the others. But they are not advancing at a normal rate. In less than 300 of their years, humans have progressed from their first controlled atomic reaction to functional fusion drives. For comparison, the required 6,000 years. The required 8,000. The fastest advancement previously recorded in galactic history was the collective at just under 4,000 years. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The humans are advancing at a rate that our models predicted to be impossible. And after extensive investigation, I believe I have discovered why. She paused, letting the tension build. The humans have developed a fundamentally different approach to knowledge. Instead of hoarding it, they share it. Instead of protecting it, they spread it. Instead of treating knowledge as a finite resource to be guarded, they treat it as an infinite resource that multiplies when given away. An elder rose from his seat, his ceremonial knowledge robes glittering with embedded data crystals. Each crystal represented a secret passed down through his family line for generations. "This is absurd," he said coldly. "Knowledge is power. It has always been power. No rational species would simply give away its most valuable discoveries." "And yet that is exactly what the humans do," Al replied. "They have developed institutions specifically designed to spread knowledge as widely as possible. They call them universities, libraries, open-access databases. Any human can access virtually any scientific knowledge ever discovered. And instead of weakening their civilization, this practice has made them extraordinarily strong." She changed the display again, showing images from her visit to Earth. Scientists from different nations working together. Open journals and freely available research papers. The vast collaborative network that connected human researchers around the world. "Consider what happens when a human scientist makes a discovery," she continued. "In our civilizations, that discovery would be classified, protected, locked away. Only a select few would have access. The knowledge would be used slowly and carefully, doled out in small amounts to maintain competitive advantage. This is what we have always done. This is what we assumed all rational species would do. The humans do something different. When a human scientist makes a discovery, their first instinct is to publish, to share, to tell everyone. They write papers describing exactly what they did and how they did it. They make their data freely available for others to analyze. They actively invite criticism and challenge. And then something remarkable happens. Other scientists read those papers, they check the work, they build on it. They combine it with their own discoveries to create new insights. A single idea, shared freely, sparks dozens of new ideas in other minds. Those new ideas are shared as well, sparking still more ideas. The process feeds on itself, accelerating with each iteration. Al turned to face the assembly directly. This is why the humans advance so quickly. They have discovered that knowledge shared is not knowledge lost. Knowledge shared is knowledge. Every scientist who reads a paper can generate new ideas. Every engineer who accesses a design can improve upon it. Instead of one mind solving a problem, they harness millions. The chamber erupted in argument. Some delegates shouted questions. Others dismissed her findings as impossible. A few sat in stunned silence, beginning to grasp the implications. The elder spoke again, his voice rising above the chaos. Even if what you say is true, it cannot be sustainable. Eventually, their knowledge will fall into the wrong hands. Their enemies will use their own discoveries against them. The system will collapse under its own weight. That is what I expected to find, Al admitted. I spent considerable time searching for evidence that the human system was unstable, that it would eventually lead to their downfall. I found no such evidence. In fact, I found the opposite. She displayed a new set of images. When humans faced a global pandemic, they published the pathogen's genetic sequence within weeks. Scientists around the world immediately began working on countermeasures. They shared their findings in real time, building on each other's work as fast as they could type. Within a single year, they had developed effective treatments. Within 2 years, they had eradicated the disease. When they wanted to understand their own biology, they launched a project to map their complete genome. Instead of keeping the results secret, they made them freely available to anyone who wanted to study them. The result was an explosion of medical advances that our analysts estimate accelerated their biological sciences by several centuries. When they developed the technology for global communication, they used it to create networks where any human can share ideas with any other human, anywhere on their planet. Instead of trying to control this flow of information, they celebrated it. They called it the greatest democratization of knowledge in their history. The assembly had grown quieter now. Representatives were listening, some with hostility, others with growing understanding. Distinguished representatives, Al said, I have spent my career studying how civilizations advance. I thought I understood the process. I was wrong. We have built our societies on the assumption that knowledge must be protected. We have created elaborate systems of patents and secrets and hereditary knowledge castes, all designed to control who has access to what information. We believed we were accumulating power. We believed we were advancing as efficiently as possible. The humans have shown us another way. They built systems to release knowledge instead of restricting it. They chose abundance over scarcity. And in doing so, they discovered something we never understood. The true power of knowledge lies not in keeping it, but in giving it away. She turned off the display and stood alone before the assembly, her voice quiet but firm. My recommendation is that we study the human model carefully, not as a threat to be contained, but as an innovation to be adopted. I am not suggesting that we abandon all security measures or share sensitive military information with potential enemies, but I am suggesting that we reconsider our fundamental assumptions about how knowledge should flow through our societies. Because if we do not change, distinguished representatives, I believe the humans will surpass us all within a few more of their remarkably brief generations, not through conquest, not through theft, simply by sharing their way to the stars. She stepped back from the podium and waited. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then slowly, a representative rose. His membrane glowed with thoughtful shades of green and blue. I have a question, he said. You spoke of institutions called universities and libraries. Could you explain how these function, in detail? Al felt something loosen in her chest. It was not acceptance, not yet, but it was curiosity, and curiosity, she had learned, was the first step toward change. Of course, she said, I would be happy to share everything I learned. 6 cycles later, the Grand Assembly voted to establish the Galactic Open Research Initiative, modeled on something the humans called Creative Commons. It was the first step in what would eventually become the greatest transformation in galactic civilization since the invention of faster-than-light travel. When the humans were informed of this development, they responded with what Doctor had called characteristic enthusiasm. They offered to help set up the new systems. They volunteered to share their expertise. They asked no payment and demanded no credit. "That's wonderful," Doctor said when Al told her the news. "We're always happy to help. And honestly, we're excited to see what you'll come up with once you start sharing too. Who knows what we might learn from each other." Al remembered something Doctor had said during her visit to Earth, standing on the shoulders of giants, every scientist building on the work of everyone who came before. The humans had understood something profound. The giants didn't just let you climb. The giants wanted you to climb, because the higher you went, the farther everyone could see. In the end, that was the most human thing of all. They had discovered that the path to the stars was not a ladder to be climbed alone. It was a bridge to be built together. And now, finally, the rest of the galaxy was ready to start building.